Hello, and welcome to all of you beautiful soul sisters. Thank you for joining me here today on the Heart of the Soul podcast. My name is Amana, and I am so happy that you're here. This is a space where we explore what it means to be wild women walking upon this earth. We connect through the ancient ritual of storytelling, sharing about that which is often unseen and unspoken. It is my deepest hope that soaking in these stories may inspire you to uncover your own innate knowing and center you into a more embodied, alive version of your beautiful, unique self. Today is Monday, June 2nd, 2025, and our moon is currently waxing towards a full moon in Sagittarius on Wednesday, June 11th, which is when this podcast episode will air. I have Olivia Roff with me here today through the cosmos on Zoom. Olivia is a mystical doula and spirit baby medium guiding women through baby loss, infertility, and conception. And we've been sort of in each other's realms for a little while now, and I'm really excited to get to hear her stories a little bit deeper here today. So Olivia, will you just tell us where in the world you are and whatever else about you that you would like us to know as we move into your stories?
Yeah, thanks, Amana. So I'm calling myself now a mystical doula and spirit baby medium. I was calling myself a mystical birth guide for a while, and I was feeling a shift to, I guess, sort of, firstly, own the doula part, and secondly, not just have the birth in there. So I'm now owning mystical doula and spirit baby medium as, I've kind of used that title for a while, but yeah. I am in the UK, south of UK, right by the sea. We moved here about, I think it's nearly 8 years ago now. So I grew up in Surrey, which is not too far from London. We moved down to the south coast and absolutely love it. We're very, very lucky. We live literally a couple of minutes walk from the beach. So it's beautiful. Just feels like home, even though it's not where I was born. And I'm married and have 2 children. I think I'd like to share the stories of their journeys to Earth, really, and our journeys together. I'll start with my first pregnancy. Actually, I will also start by saying that all I ever wanted to be was a mother. So if anybody asked me when I was, little, or even probably in my teens, I wanted to be quite a young mum. My mum had me when she was fairly young, maybe not that young at the time, but quite young now. She was 25. And I just remember always wanting to, I was like, I'm gonna have children when I'm 25. I'm gonna have 2 children because we've got 2. So it didn't quite happen like that.
Yes, me too. I knew I always wanted to be a mom, like from a very young age, but then I didn't actually get to be a mom till I was in my 30s. And I too also wanted to be a younger mom. Since you mentioned your mom and your birth, I'm wondering if for a moment you could tell me any of the stories that you heard about your own birth from your mom.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful you've asked that because my first birth very much mirrored my birth, which is just so common. So I was a forceps baby, essentially. My mum, was in labour with me for a really long time. And I always remember that my dad told me, and it's probably quite traumatic for him as well, because it was just like the way that he always told it was that the force that they had to use to pull me out, like the doctor had to put his foot up on the bed and literally like pull me. So I had quite a lot of things kind of going on my neck when I was like in my early 20s, and I went to see a healer, and she was like, that's what it's from. Basically, it's just like held there from your birth, when I obviously told her as well about that story that my dad told me. So that, I guess, kind of played in a lot to my own desires for my first birth. And to be honest, I was petrified of having forceps. I just thought that's like the last thing I want to have. I cannot have my baby pulled out by forceps. So it wasn't just that reason, but I'd been on a healing journey. I'd experienced a lot of burnout in my like 20s, and I was a primary school teacher, and I started training for the London Marathon and just completely wiped out. I was just like, my body was just no. So that led me into like a healing path, and I guess probably had been on that journey for maybe 2, 3 years. And I guess it had led me more to like the natural health world. And so because I had kind of entered that, it was exploring yoga and things like that, I then just was obviously really drawn to home birth, basically, and wanting to do everything naturally. And I'm very much, and I've learned a lot from it now, but I'm very much a person that's, I guess, very committed. So if I want to do something, that I'm going to do everything like I can to do it and fully like commit and devote to it. And my cousin's wife had done hypnobirthing, which I didn't really know what it was at the time, and had her first baby at home. And I was just like in awe, just thought, wow, she's had her first baby at home. She then trained as a hypnobirthing teacher when her baby was like a few months old, and then I got pregnant. So by that time I was just like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do hypnobirthing. I'm going to have a home birth. It's going to be amazing. I did everything I could. Pregnancy yoga. I had like acupuncture all the way through. I saw like herbalist and all the things, basically, just try and like prepare myself. And I'll say I was very lucky, but also all divinely timed. I'd actually changed jobs. So I left the teaching job that I was burnt out in and moved to a private school, an independent school. And my stress levels were very, very, very different. It had reduced a lot. And we actually got pregnant really quickly, which was not what we anticipating. So it was a few months after starting my job. But anyway, because of that, our son was then due essentially what would have been here that we have after the summer holidays. He was born in September. And so what happened was, because I was in a private school, they have much longer school holidays. I ended up finishing work like 2 months before he was due. So I had 2 months at home just to prepare and relax and rest and do all the things. And so that was lovely. It was so nice. I was so glad. And he actually came at 37.5 weeks. So it was, sort of earlier than I was expecting, but I was just, I was fit to bursting and couldn't fit any more baby in me by that time. So I planned a home birth, and I went into labour around 1 a.m.
Can I just ask you, how did that dialogue go like with your husband? Was he also comfortable with you home birthing? Or I know there can be rub
He
sometimes
was a
there.
little bit anxious about it, but I think it really helped that it was like family member that had, so it was my cousin and then his wife, that they'd had a home birth, they'd done hypnobirthing. And so my husband knew them, and we did, she came over to our house and did the classes with us and everything, and was really supportive. And so he had her, I guess, as well. Like when I went into labour, they were in contact, which I didn't know. So he had that support, and I think, he was still obviously a bit anxious about it, but he he knows me very well, and when I choose something, he knows I'm going to choose it. So he wanted to support me in what I wanted to do. So we had 2 midwives come. I'll tell more about that a bit later as to why we had 2. But they were NHS midwives, And they were really lovely, and they were really respectful, and they left me alone. Like I was laboring in our son's bedroom, and that's where the birth pool was. We were actually in a flat at the time, and they just were in the living room, and they just kept coming to check me every now and again. But it was a very long labor, and it was actually quite an amazing labor for most of it, and I was really appreciative of my pregnancy yoga. I didn't actually feel the hypnobirthing really benefited me that much, but I had also got into meditation, so I was just using meditation and yoga really to support me.
Yeah.
My mum was there as well.
When you say very long, what does that mean to you?
About 24 hours. So,
Oh,
well,
yeah,
I'm talking about from, yeah, for the very beginning of it. So active labor probably started at around 5 p.m.
sure. Yeah. For
after the
anyone
babies were
listening,
woken up
a
at 1 a.m.
24-hour labor is actually like average for first.
Yes, yeah. And funny enough, my
We,
mum
we
had
can
about the
view
same
it as
thing.
long, but it's not
Yeah,
necessarily not, yeah,
yeah,
not really
yeah,
long. Yeah.
yeah. It felt long. It
Sure.
feels long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, so I went into active labour about 5, and then I got in the birth pool at about midnight. And the reason I remember that is because they told me that I was in and out of the birth pool for 8 hours, and I wasn't really progressing. And I just remember, and this is when it started to get really challenging, because they were getting me in and out and getting me like walking up and down the corridor and getting me to do squats, and I was exhausted, to be honest, and I hadn't slept, and yeah, things just weren't moving. And I just said to them, can you leave me and my husband to see if we can kind of pick things up a bit? We're trying some different techniques. Nothing was happening. And after, I think it was maybe like 2 hours that they then were doing the coach pushing. I had initially said I don't want any coach pushing, but because nothing was moving, they said we're going to help you. So I said okay. And then because they have their time limits, they then said, oh, well, it's 2 hours and we're going to have to transfer you to hospital. So I was absolutely devastated and petrified, because that was the last thing I wanted to do. And I just remember saying to my mum, like, they're going to do forceps, like I don't want to go in. And yeah, from then on, it was just horrendous, to be honest. It was really, like the paramedics turned up really quickly. I was trying to sort of take my time a bit. I had nothing packed because I was so convinced I was going to have a home birth. So my mum had to run around like getting stuff. Like someone put a dressing gown on me, and they rushed us out into the ambulance and blue lighted us to hospital. Well, the baby was absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with our baby at all. His heart rate was totally fine. They were worried about me. I was dehydrated and really exhausted. But I just remember going in the ambulance and traveling over the speed bumps, and they were going so fast. And I was having contractions, and I was just like, oh, it was just awful. And my husband was really struggling as well. So, yeah, so we got to hospital, and I was not treated in a gentle way at all. Essentially, they were very forceful, quickly checking me, shoving cannulas in my arm. My mum was screaming at them to leave me alone because I was having a contraction, and I was screaming at them. It was just awful. It was just so traumatic, and it was just from having like actually really lovely midwives in our home to then going into that situation. It was just awful. But fortunately, things turned around, and I realised why the doctor had been so rough with me, because she was changing shifts. So I then had somebody else come in, and she was so lovely, and they prepped me for theatre and took me into theatre, and gave me a spinal block because they said I might need a C-section, and then tried Bonchouse, and then he came out with forceps finally. But fortunately, yeah, the team was so much calmer and nicer than what I'd initially walked into. And yeah, but our baby was born, and I'm really, really sensitive, and they'd given me the spinal block, but because my body's so sensitive, it literally numbed me like up to the top of onto my neck. So when they put him on me, I couldn't feel anything, couldn't hold him. I wanted to breastfeed, I wanted to hold him, and I was just like this. And obviously they were kind of helping me, but I was just like, this was like the complete opposite of what I was wanting. It was just awful. And yes, and they took us to a room and we stayed there overnight, but it was probably just one of the worst nights I've ever had because my husband wasn't allowed to stay. So he went home. Yeah. And I was left there, and our baby was so traumatized. He screamed non-stop and wouldn't feed. There was no other babies. Like, it felt like there was no other babies crying on the ward. You know, just like, it's just my baby. What's going on? So I had, yeah, just obviously didn't sleep that night. Had a screaming baby. They came and gave him cowpole, which I was just so devastated about because I really wanted him to have like a healthy gut, and I was like, that's the first thing he's gonna have. Oh, so yeah, poor. I just like, yeah, I like bless that younger mother me. I just sent her so much love because it was just, yeah, it was really, really tough. And fortunately, we did get to go home the next day. But yeah, we had a challenging breastfeeding journey, but it lasted for 3.5 years. Not the whole 3.5 years was challenging. The first 8 months was really challenging. But yeah, we did have an amazing breastfeeding journey after that. So that was, yeah, that was a really challenging first birth experience. Even though we'd conceived really easily and the pregnancy was fine, but unfortunately, yeah, the birth was not as I had hoped.
How how long or what did you do to integrate and like heal from that experience?
I didn't.
You
And
didn't.
this is no. And
Okay.
this is where the next conception journey,
Aha.
it all came up. So I just no, I know no support, no, like no one offered me to talk through the birth or anything. And I didn't even know that was a thing to do. You know, I didn't even think. Obviously, I talked to my friends about it, but most of them hadn't had babies. There was only me and one other friend who had had a baby, and in fact, our other close friend was pregnant at the time and very close behind me, so didn't want to talk to her about it.
Yeah, but you're
Um,
like deep in this matrescence, like transformation, this rite of passage from maiden to mother. And if you don't
yeah,
have other people around you that have
yeah.
the path before, it can be so much more isolating and you don't know the things that you don't know until you.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And yeah, it wasn't until 4 years later that I really fully told my birth story to a circle of women, and it all came out. So we started trying to conceive our second baby when our son was just over 3, so he was like 3.5. So I finished breastfeeding, and then we started trying to conceive. Um, and I don't know if I expected it to be as easy as the first time, but I didn't expect what followed. So after a couple of months, I woke up one morning and had had a dream about a spiritual pregnancy. Now, I'd begun my spiritual journey probably about 6 months before that, so it was quite fairly sort of new. But
And
I had
how did your spiritual journey begin? Like when you say it
So
started.
I was doing some healing work with a hypnotherapist actually, and she introduced me to like oracle cards and just sort of saying a few things to me, and I was like, "What is this?" And I literally had one of those like kind of awakenings that people talk about, and you just see the world differently. I just was like, "Oh my gosh!" this, like, and I just saw these angel numbers everywhere, and it was just something just completely switched. And it, yeah, just completely just started seeing things differently. I was just like all into crystals and oracle cards and angel numbers, and yeah, and as I say, like I just go down rabbit holes. There's I'm part of my neurodivergence. So I think if something opens up to me, I'm like, yes, got to go down there, got to explore that. So I just go like full in, and my friend actually had a miscarriage a few months before I'd started trying to conceive again. And I had somehow, I can't actually remember how now. Oh, I know what it was. I'd come across spirit babies. So because I was now on this like spiritual journey, I Googled what's the spiritual reason for a miscarriage? Because there's something inside me was like, there's some deeper reason here. This is not just coincidence. This has not just happened. So I stumbled across spirit babies and had started like reading a bit about them and things. So then when we started trying to conceive, and I woke up and had this spiritual pregnancy, again, I went to Dr. Google, as you do, and Googled what's a spiritual pregnancy. And then all of a sudden, I just had this knowing that I was pregnant. And I felt this energy of a baby girl literally right near me, right with me. And I knew I was pregnant and I knew it was a girl. And I just was just like, oh my gosh, this is just so bizarre. And I told my husband, and he was like, okay, like, slow down, hold on. You haven't even done a pregnancy test. I was like, I know, I don't need to do a pregnancy test. Like, I know I'm pregnant. And he's like, okay, just wait, because he knows I get quite excited about things. It's like, just wait. Anyway, I did wait. And so I would have been like 4 weeks pregnant. And then I woke up and I was just bleeding everywhere. And I just was like, I guess like in shock and devastated, angry, so angry, because I thought, have I made this up? Has spirit just fooled me and made me think that I was pregnant with this dream and signs and, all the things? Like, what is this, just my period, basically, is what I was thinking, is just my period. But it was so much heavier, so much more painful, so much longer. And I just thought, I know this is a miscarriage. And I don't know how long I waited for, but I waited a little while and then went to the GP, and I thought, I'm just going to go and speak to our doctor, which is very, very unusual for me. I very rarely go to the doctor. And just kind of get their opinion. So I went, and I guess they just kind of reflected back to me what I already knew, is, yes, it sounds like you've had a miscarriage. But yeah, like, to kind of I just want to like offer love to that mother part of me that needed like almost like an authority to tell me what I already know with my body. But it's all, it was all part of my journey of trusting myself and my intuition. So after that, I didn't want to start trying to conceive again for a couple of months. I just needed a bit of space and just kind of be with everything. So that was in 2018, December 2018. Then we started trying to conceive again early next year, and we weren't having any success. And so I was just exploring spirit babies more and more, really, and the kind of connection that I was feeling. And then I was just listening to this podcast like over and over again about spirit babies, like all the episodes. And then I conceived again in August. So, August 2019 it was. And I was very excited, but very anxious. And I felt awful. They're just like so anxious, so mentally low, like almost like really depressed, really sick. And it got to, I think I was about 10 or 11 weeks, and this all lifted. And I was like, like I've passed the first trimester, awfulness that it can be. I feel so much better. And then I got to the day before, it was the day before our 12-week scan was due. And I started bleeding again. And it was quite light at first. And I was just it was just like this, you're kind of battling with your like, I really hope this is all okay. And then your knowing is going, I know I'm having a miscarriage. I know I'm losing this baby. And I sort of messaged a couple of friends, and they said, I had bleeding when I was in early pregnancy, and it was all fine, and just trying to reassure me. And it just kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And I just thought, oh gosh, how much is too much blood to be losing? Because this is literally like, really coming out. And I then sort of reluctantly called triage and sort of said to them, like, how much is too much? And she said, well, if you're, filling a pad within like a few minutes, then that's too much. Like, you need to come in. So I was like, yeah, I'm kind of getting through this. The ones that you wear just after you've had a baby. I fortunately had some of those, and yeah, was. So I just said to my husband, I think I'm a little bit worried about how much blood I'm losing. I think we better go to hospital, but I had to go to A&E. And so I was driving to A&E, and I just thought, this is the worst thing I could ever experience right now, is sitting in A&E waiting while I'm losing my baby. But on the way to the hospital, I saw all these signs and these angel numbers, and I just thought, this is all happening for a reason. Like, I'm being held here. What, like, this is what's going on. And I got to the hospital, and they took me straight in, no waiting at all. Like, my husband went and spoke to them, they came and spoke to me, took me straight into triage and straight into a private room. And I was really shocked, to be honest. I've never had any experience like that in a hospital. And I have to say, this was in a different hospital than had our son, because we'd moved to Sussex by this time. So and then so they took me into a private room, and the nurse that was looking after me had had 5 miscarriages herself. So I was like, so compassionate, so understanding. The number of the bed I was on was a really like special number to me as well. And it was just, it was a really like weird kind of place to be in, because I was in this sort of, I guess, kind of confusion, what's going on with my body, like, devastation of losing a baby, yet having this feeling of being held and knowing this was all happening for a reason. And yeah, our daughter's soul was gone for whatever reason that was going to be. And the nurse said to me, are you okay? It's like, yeah. She's like, you're really calm given what's going on. And I said, yeah, I feel really calm, weirdly, but I also felt quite anxious because I'd previously experienced claustrophobia. And so I had this real thing of her not wanting to close the door of the room. And she was like, but I do want to close the door because I want to like protect your privacy. And the bed was kind of facing the door. So she was like, I am going to close the door because I want you to have your privacy. So I was like, okay. And then I kind of like, I settled a bit. And they were really wonderful with our son, taking him around the unit, like showing him like the X-ray machine and stuff. So it was actually just a really healing experience after the birth trauma experience I'd had at the hospital before, and I'd kind of gone into this really like anti-hospital mindset. And so it was just, and I afterwards I just thought, that's what my daughter was guiding me into. She was wanting, part of this was for me to heal that experience that I'd had first time around in hospital. So we went home after a few hours. They had said it was likely that the baby had died quite a while, like quite a few weeks ago, because they were saying to me the size of what a 12-week-old fetus would be. And I said, I definitely haven't birthed anything that big. So then I started, that's why I was starting to feel so different at around 10 weeks. And obviously wasn't pregnant anymore. But something really significant happened a few weeks ago. I found a photo of myself in this time. I literally had no idea I had photos of myself in this pregnancy. And it was a photo of myself from one of those apps, I think, at 10 weeks pregnant. And I was so shocked when I saw it. And then I looked at it longer, and I realised the baby's not even alive in this picture, because I was 10 weeks pregnant, and we thought that and after I'd communicated like with my daughter and things, she left around 6-7 weeks. And so I just looked at this picture, and I just thought, oh my goodness, like, reflecting on it, obviously a lot of kind of shock, sadness. It was always like, this was actually real, this actually happened. Like, I tell my story all the time, but it was just so, well, I guess confronting in a way, but not in like a really kind of traumatic way, and just really took me back. And and then even, kind of looking deeper and thinking this, the baby's not alive in this picture, even though I thought I was, carrying life, but actually I was carrying death. And now I just feel like that photo is so sacred. Like, I can't even believe that I've got a photo of me in that place. It was just, it feels so special now. So just, I'm going to treasure it. And it just took me back to also something my son said as well, that I think it was like the day after that we'd lost the baby, and I was just sitting in the lounge, really, really upset. And he said something like, "But mummy, all of us need the right soil to grow, even babies." And I just was like, goosebumps all over me. He was 4 at the time, and I was just like, blown away by his I mean, he's just such a magical soul, and he just is such a teacher to me. But it's like, yes, you're right. But also, like, how dare you say that? Like, what do you mean I don't have the right soil to grow a baby? What's wrong with me? And then it's obviously spiraled into that as well. But it then aligned so deeply with what I then learned from our daughter a few months later. So I miscarried in October, very magically, on Baby Loss Awareness Day. So it was the 15th of October. And the following month, I came across the Spirit Babies book, the Spirit Babies book. I don't know if you've read it, the one.
Yeah, I have that one.
And literally devoured it in like 2 days. I was like, this is just amazing. And I started doing some of the meditations, the chants from it. And oh my gosh, it was just the most amazing, magical experience I've ever had in my life. The first time I did one of those chants, and called our daughter's soul in, and she like just gave me these messages and these colors, and it was just the most beautiful spiritual experience I've ever had. And I just was like, I need to do more of this. But there was also something within me that was going, I don't need to do these chants. Like, I realized, oh, I can actually just say, can you come in, and say her name, and then she's there. So I was like, oh, that process is kind of not really aligned for me. So I just found my own way of calling her and connecting with her. But then, so a few weeks after that, I really wanted to reach out for some help. And I joined a group on Facebook with some Spirit Baby communicators in it. And I reached out to one of them that I felt really drawn to. And so we had a session. And when our daughter came in, had never experienced anything. And I don't get this now, because I guess my energy's adjusted. But my whole body was just like almost like shaking, and my eyelids were shaking. Her energy was just so powerful. And the lady that was doing the communicating was saying the same thing. And she got some really strange like physical symptoms as well during our session. And she was just saying, like, her energy is so high, such a high vibration. And she has been coming in and out of your womb for a really long time. And she's been waiting for the energy to align with hers. And she can't kind of stay in at the moment because the energy is not aligned to her. She just can't hold her. So that's why she kind of tested it out for a while, and then she left. And but essentially, she's coming in, and I knew her name as well. And so it just was so aligned with what my son had said. Like, they're both saying the same thing, that the soil needs to be aligned, the womb needs to be aligned to hold the baby, and to bring her to earth. So we did some healing sessions, and a big part of that actually was healing my own birth, and my first birth with my son. And yes, so around that time as well as when I went to this mother's circle, and one of this weeks was writing out a birth story, and I wrote mine out, and we were invited to read it to the group. And I just remember them all saying, how long ago was your birth? I was like, 4 years. They're like, you literally feel like you're telling it as if it was last week, like the amount that you remember, the detail you've put in it. So I really needed to just I hadn't processed it. And it was just so helpful to have that reflected back to me. And then obviously, then it came up again in the spirit baby communication session. And so I was quite clear that she was guiding me to do a lot of healing around that birth. So yes, so then it actually wasn't that long after that, a few weeks later, I conceived again. And she stayed. So it was aligned. And then COVID hit. So I conceived in February 2020. So she knew when she had to come in. And it was funny because I was listening to a podcast, an Akashic Records podcast, in 2019, at the end of 2019, and she was saying how all these babies, these souls are going to be coming in 2020, and my whole body just got all these goosebumps. I was like, I know, this is when our daughter's going to come in. So yeah, she chose her timing perfectly. And yeah, we had a beautiful pregnancy, despite obviously being in lockdown. And but what I found quite challenging is I didn't find it as easy to connect with her and communicate with her as I had done before. But she did communicate to me in my dreams. And she, one night had such an amazing dream. And I'd been asking her for a while, where does she want to be born? Excuse me a minute. And I knew in my heart I really wanted to have a home birth, but I was so scared because of my previous experience. So I'd been asking, are we going to be born in hospital or at home? And I wasn't getting anything. I was getting really frustrated. Like every day I'd ask her, like, can you tell me? And I think it was about 28, might have even been like 27 weeks. And I woke up from a dream where I'd gone to hospital in labour, and I just heard her voice so clearly say, go home, I want to be born at home. And I just remember waking up from that dream literally from her voice, and I was just like, oh, thank you, now I know, I've got your confirmation, yes, we're going to have a home birth. Then I sought out a doula. I in fact actually already found her, knew I wanted her to be my doula, but thought it would be impossible. Didn't think I hadn't worked. I've been a stay-at-home mum since we'd had our son, and we didn't have the money and all these things. But actually, because of COVID, we'd actually got some extra money because of my husband not working and things that the government were offering. So we actually had the money to pay and had this wonderful doula. So she came. We met up a few times. Obviously I was really worried as well about her, like whether she would come and wearing masks and all this stuff. But she said, no, like I'm not, I will be there. It's fine. And so once again, I went into labour at 1 o'clock in the morning. My waters like partially broke, but it was very different this time. So I just got back into bed, was kind of dozing, and then at 7 o'clock in the morning, I got up to go to the toilet, and wow, did things shift all of a sudden. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm in active labour, like this is coming quite. And then, so I'd woke my husband up. By this time, I was like, I'm in labour. It's really intense. I can't cope with it. And he was like, what? Why are you only just waking me up now? What's going on? I was like, I'm in labour since 1 o'clock in the morning, but it was fine until now. But I was like, help, what do I do? And I got really panicked. And interestingly, I hadn't really done any kind of preparation this time. So I'd gone from like doing loads the first time around, and obviously because of COVID and having another child and everything, I thought, it's fine. I just use my breathing. But I just lost it. I just was like, I can't breathe. This is painful. Like, what do I do? The thing that occurred was like, I'm going to go and grab my crystals. I just want to grab my crystals and put them on my chest. I was like, just really helped ground me. And my husband called our doula and she's like, okay, get her this essential oil, and just give her, like, put it under tissue and get her to breathe it in and get her in some water. So he did. He ran me a bath, and I got in the bath, and I really wanted him and my son in the bathroom. I was like, please don't leave me alone. And then I got in the bath and I was like, get out! Get out! I want to be on my own. And my son said to Daddy, she's just asked us to come in here. Why is she screaming at us? Get out! He's like, we just have to listen, just go. It's just what happens when women are in labour. He was just so confused, bless him. And anyway, they went downstairs, and then our doula arrived not long after that. And she came and sorted me out, basically. It was like, really helped with my breathing, just helped me calm down. She was wonderful. And she just kept popping in and out of the bathroom to see if I was okay, topping the bath water up, bringing me water. I was so thirsty. I just remember being so hot and so thirsty. And I was just in my zone, just completely zoned out. But I felt really, like, almost like high from the essential oils. I remember saying to her after, I was like, blimey, it was so strong. I've got a really sensitive nose, like really sensitive sense of smell. So putting like eucalyptus up my nose was just, but really, it really helped. I think about 3 hours later, I got out the bath, because she was like, okay, I need you to, like, not just lull, like, we need to kind of get things moving again. So just going to get you out and kind of move around a bit and go to the toilet. And so I did. But I remember sitting on the loo and just being like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. This is like, I need to get up. She's like, no, it's fine. You want things moving. It was almost, I was kind of like, because it was so intense, I was then wanting to, like, slow it down. But she was just so brilliant at just kind of keeping me going. And then I went into our bedroom. My husband and son were filling up the birth pool downstairs. And I got into a bedroom, got onto all fours. Oh no, I think I was standing up at this point, and I was like, I need to push. She was like, no, what? No, what, you need to push? I was like, I literally need to push. The baby's coming out now. She was like, oh, right, okay. What do you want? Like, okay, that's fine. So I didn't end up going downstairs. They paused the birth pool, and ended up calling the hospital. She said, you want us to call the midwife? I was like, yeah, okay. So they called the midwife. They then had to send paramedics because I don't think the midwife was. So I went through this whole thing of paramedics coming again because they thought the midwife wasn't going to get to us in time. So I was there on my bedroom floor on all fours with two male paramedics come rushing up the stairs, staring at my bum, because fully naked. And he was just chatting to my husband. And I was like, my doula was like, I think you want to tell them to be quiet, don't you? She was encouraging me to use my voice. I was like, can you please stop talking? So they did. But I was just, I just thought, how, like, has this created this again? And apparently there was like five of them or something downstairs. I have no idea why they sent so many people. And then 20 minutes later, our midwife showed up. And fortunately, she was not the midwife that I'd had throughout my whole pregnancy, but I had a few appointments with her. So it was somebody that I had connected with and knew. And I did just feel a sort of sense of relief that it was kind of a face and a voice that I recognised, because you can get anyone in the way that our system works. And so she just, she was really gentle, really calm, and lovely, and helped me with my perineum. And in fact, it was my doula that suggested to get a warm compress and put it on my perineum, and that really helped with the intensity. So and I think our daughter was born about 15 minutes after she arrived onto our bedroom floor, which was not what we were expecting, but perfect. And it was incredibly intense. I made a lot of noise, was not the kind of calm, gentle, quiet water birth that I had pictured that I would be having. But it was needed, and it was what I needed to express. And a lot of withheld trauma came up, basically, that needed to be released. And she really, really took me down into that and through it.
And you weren't numb, and you were able to, like, hold her and bring her up
Yeah.
to your chest and
Yes. Yeah.
all of
That was just the best feeling. Like picking her up, holding her, sitting in my bedroom. Like my mum also came. I actually asked my mum not to be there. Not that she's intruded. I'm just going to explain. I had thought that I didn't want her to be there this time, but she was going to come and look after our son. So she did, but while I was literally pushing our daughter out, I just had this like, I want my mum to see this, I want my son to see this. So I said, can you go and get them? My doula was like, are you sure? I said, yes, I really want them in here. So they literally saw like her head like came up just as her head came out. And yeah, my mum was just, oh my goodness, like it was just yeah, it was amazing. It was lovely. But then afterwards, I did feel a bit like, oh, there's too many people in the room, because she then also then bless her called my dad on. They're separated, but he lives in the Philippines. But she was so excited. She called him on video. I was like, yeah, look, and I was like, whoa, this is all a little bit too much. But yeah, bless them. We're very, very, very excited. Yeah, but I mean, we're not having any more children. But if I was to have any more children, there's things I would do differently, as that, and not having so many people in the room, and actually probably not even have a midwife, because there was a part of me in my, just in my heart, I think that didn't actually want a midwife there, and I think that's also why I left it so long to like tell people and yeah, and like the checks that they do afterwards, like weighing the baby, and obviously I know they don't have to do that, but I agreed to it and then really regretted it, because she was screaming her head off, and I was like, why have I just said yes to that? This is not what I want her to be doing. I want her to be on me.
And had
So
they gotten
yeah,
the
again,
paramedics?
lots of things.
Had they gotten the
But
paramedics out of the room
oh
before?
yeah, sorry,
Okay,
they
yeah.
left as soon as the midwife was there. They left. Yeah,
And then
yeah. So it was the midwife, my mum, my son, and doula, and my husband. Yeah,
I know with your son's birth, you didn't talk about the placenta. They likely maybe pulled
they
it out.
just took it. They
Can you
just
tell
took it.
me what you remember about birthing your daughter's placenta?
Yeah. So it was funny. So we had told the midwife that they were having lotus birth, so that we could keep it all attached. And she'd never witnessed one before either. So she was like, wow, what is this? A placenta bowl? But I hadn't intended keeping it attached for that long, and having a full lotus birth. So I think it was about, oh, I don't know, I'm going to say maybe 4 hours or so, that because she was born at 12:44 in midday, and we must have burnt it. Oh, it must have been longer than that, because we burnt it in the evening. It was dark. So yeah, so my husband and my son. So my husband's a carpenter. He had made a burning box, and my husband and my son did it, and they both had beeswax candles, and we just sat in the darkness. I was holding her, and it took ages, longer than we were anticipating. And my doula's, she'd done it before, and she was, she's just kind of leading us and guiding us, and to say it does take quite a while. But yeah, bless my son, like for a 4-year-old to be so patient, to be sitting there for so long with a candle. And it was so beautiful, because literally it popped and she just woke up. Like our daughter just opened her eyes and woke up. And it's like, oh, it was so magical. So yeah, it was beautiful, such a beautiful ritual, and I'm so pleased that we chose to do that.
And how was nursing with her? Was that also a rewritten?
It was, again, I had another really quite challenging. This is like all the feminine healing that I have gone through. Yeah, another challenging time with her. So I didn't mention that our son had a lot of allergies. So as well as having difficulty latching because of his traumatic birth, we also discovered later that he had a lot of allergies. So he was allergic, like reacting to lots of things in my milk. So I ended up cutting loads of things out of my diet. So our daughter, again, was a bit tricky to latch. It was okay, but it wasn't that comfortable for me. And it wasn't anywhere near like the first time round. And but then she started like screaming when she was going to the toilet, really, really red raw bottom. And I was just, it was, to be honest, it was almost worse second time round. And And I was just broken and literally was broken. I was like, I cannot do this. I feel like I'm poisoning my daughter. She is screaming. And I just really did not want to give her formula. And I was worried about allergies. And so, anyways, we tried, like, would she take a bottle? Absolutely not. Neither of them would. Tried bottles with both of them, and they were not going there. I was desperate, and my husband was trying, my mum was trying, I was trying. Please just take this because I can't feed you. I can't feed you. I can't keep doing this. Like, you're waking up like multiple times of night, screaming in the daytime. I don't know what's making you scream. And it was, yeah, it was really, and I just remember sitting on the sofa just saying to myself, I can't do this anymore. I literally cannot do this. I don't know what to do. But yeah, she wouldn't take a bottle. So I just had to, and I was like, she's clearly telling me something. She is clearly telling me she is not going to have formula. She is having breast milk, and I need to do something. What is she trying to communicate to me? So I was like, right, okay, allergies, right? What want to eliminate from my milk, from my diet? I'm going through this whole process again. And then when she was around 3 months old, so it was quite a while, I got a message to go vegan, and I did, and she was like a different child. But I'd also, the thing is though, I went vegan, but I also cut out soy because I was feeling like she was reacting to soy. So, and I'm also gluten free, so I was on a really restricted diet. And after a little while, I then started, I can't remember what I added in, but I added in lots. Oh yeah, because I'd also cut out nuts and things like that. So I can't be vegan and not eat nuts and not eat soy and not eat gluten, just living on air. So anyway, I managed to like gradually bring stuff in. And then I think after it was probably about a year that I then started having soy, and she was still breastfeeding, and it was fine. So we were both vegan. I weaned her vegan. And it's really interesting because the last time I spoke about this on the podcast, I told this story, and I was just thought that, this is my truth. Like, I'm vegan, she wants to be vegan, she loves animals, and I knew before she came that she'd love animals because she used to show me them in meditations all the time. And but in October last, so I'd been vegan for 4 years, and October last year, I just was like, I need to eat meat. I need to start eating meat again, and eggs and dairy, and I just need all the stuff. And I was like, what's going on? This is just so weird. Like, she guided me into being vegan. Why? And so this is a whole nother big lesson now around what she's like teaching me. And I've now moved into perimenopause. And so my body was just like, I need like so much more. Like, you need to just give me all these nutrients now so now I'm, yeah, very much back on animal food diet, which I wasn't before. And lots of all the eggs and butter and fat and protein, and just really nourishing my body. And my iron had got really low. I didn't have any blood tests, but my womb told me basically in a meditation that you need to replenish your iron. You need to replenish your blood, is what she told me. And I just knew that my blood had got so depleted from my birth of my son. I lost a lot of blood from my miscarriages. And then from my birth of my daughter, actually, I missed that bit out, but I lost quite a lot of blood. So much so that my doula and my midwife were quite concerned, but I was given a herbal tincture that I bought, and it literally stopped the bleeding. My placenta had come out really quickly, and it stopped the bleeding like that. So then it was fine, but I hadn't then kind of nourished myself after to replenish it. And I just think, and then I was vegan and probably wasn't giving my body all that it needed. And just got to the point of perimenopause, just went, nope, sorry, you are not nourishing yourself, and you need to change. It's been a pattern for me. I've had disordered eating since, I don't know, probably I was in my teens. So this is another big kind of I guess pattern that my children have woken me up to. Because when I had my son, I lost weight in my pregnancy. So I weighed less after I'd given birth to him than before I got pregnant with him. Yeah, so I was really, and the doctor in the theatre said, "Oh my goodness, like, I've never seen a woman's like belly basically just literally shrink back into where it was after the baby's been born." So bless my younger self. Just I didn't know how to properly nourish myself. I didn't, yeah. So it's been a big full circle in a way as well, actually, because interestingly, after my son was born, have you heard of Nourishing Traditions? Do you know yeah. So I went full into Nourishing Traditions with him, and all the kind of egg, and wanted to do raw dairy, but then he was allergic to egg and he was allergic to dairy, so I was fine. Loads of liver, like giving him all the organ meats and everything. So it just feels like this real full circle moment, because that's where I've come back to now, and it was just like, oh my goodness, like what have you two been like taking me through? So yeah, so it's really, really interesting how they've both, I guess, just guided me like on this healing my relationship with my body and food, and yeah, nourishing
Yeah.
myself. So
It's amazing how life does that and how things like spiral back that we think
yeah,
we're done with, and yet
yes,
they circle
yeah.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, so much, and you just think, I thought, oh, I'm going to be vegan forever. Like I don't know. It's just so interesting how life just throws things at us, doesn't it? That we're not expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you followed Rachel Brathen, Yoga Girl, her journey of veganism and then into eating meat now?
No, I don't think I have. No, I followed. There's a few people that I've listened to,
Yeah.
especially when you kind of. I'm not carnivore, but I did explore carnivore, and you kind of when you dive into that kind of world, there's lots of kind of people that were vegan and then moved into carnivore. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yes. Okay. Speaking of circling back, I would love to dive a little deeper before we have to close here about your spirit baby mediumship. And I know you said you had the spiritual awakening and started communicating to your own spirit babies and having these readings with other women. And I'm curious, like, did you grow up in a spiritual household? Like for me, I didn't. And I
Oh.
didn't even like know the word medium until I was in my 30s. I'm now 42. And I'm just would love to hear some of the stories around you like embracing your own mediumship abilities and offering readings to other women and how that came about.
Yeah, no, I'd love to share that. Yeah, no, I did not grow up in a spiritual household at all, like the opposite of that. I have a lot of ancestral wounding, I'd say, trauma around religion. My ancestors were part of a very strict group of Christians, and yeah, there's I mean, anything magic was the devil, basically. That wasn't how I was brought up, because my parents chose to leave anything to do with the church, and because of what they had experienced when they were children. And so we occasionally went to church, for like school things or whatever it was. But they would not, yeah, they didn't want to have anything to do with the church. So, but there was still this wounding in them around magic, or kind of healing and things like that. So anything, I mean, mediumship was just like absolute no, like no, we did have one of my ancestors actually a homeopath on my mum's side. And so there was like an openness to kind of alternative medicine, and kind of like essential oils and those kinds. So I was kind of brought up with a few of those things, but anything spiritual was just too scary. Like it was. So no, I had no idea that I had mediumship gifts. I'd never had any experiences when I was a child that I kind of thought or realized what it was. So yeah, so our daughter literally awakened me to these gifts that I had no idea I had. So yeah, I discovered that I could communicate with her, and then I also communicate with spirit babies like as a collective. So like they are a collective, a set of beings, and I. So after she was born, I'm trying to think what happened really. Oh yeah, I was communicating with these beings as a collective, and then I started offering readings to my friends, and then kind of exploring reading for them. What some were pregnant, some were wanting babies.
Can you describe what it looks like or sounds like? Or I know that we all communicate differently. So I'm curious for you, like, do you have a way of describing when you say I communicated with the Spirit Baby Collective? Like, what does that mean?
It's shifted throughout. So when I started, I would essentially, I'd just call them in, just say spirit babies come in, and then I hear a message from them. And so I would write it down. I've got like notes and notes on my phone. It's just so many messages. And then my experience of seeing mediums myself is that they would, I guess, kind of talk to the spirit, so whether it's a spirit baby or whoever it was that they was, and then they would just relay something that they wanted, or they'd share a message or something. So that is the way that I kind of worked when I first started doing it and offering it to my friends. So I call the baby in, and they say something to me, and then I would just kind of say it to mother, or I'd kind of say, oh, I'm seeing this color or this color, or they're showing me a teddy bear, or they're showing me this. Well, after, I don't know, I don't really know how long it was, maybe a year or so, they were saying, like, this isn't you, this isn't how you are here to channel us, communicate us. And so I just started speaking as them. So basically, the way I channel is quite different to other mediums, and particularly spirit baby mediums, in that I speak, the baby's voice comes through me. You know, I'll open up, I'll call the baby in, and I will literally kind of embody the baby to the mother, and I will just literally speak, like, flow out. And it's really always really poetic. It's just beautiful, so beautiful. It just fills my heart every time. And it's just, yeah, it's just such a beautiful experience. And each spirit baby, each soul has their own unique energy, because that's what I believe soul is. We're a unique expression of spirit. And so I feel that. I experience it. You know, some babies will come in and they're got like really bouncy and they're really excited and their message is like, ah. And then other babies will come in, they're so grounded, so peaceful, so relaxed. And it also is what the mother needs. So, but it also very often can mirror the mother's energy. So, like, you know, I've had clients that are kind of got this like hyper, like ADHD kind of energy. I'm not just saying they're ADHD only. They tell me they've got ADHD, because they laugh and say, because that their baby will come in and be like really energetic and hyperactive, and then they're like, well, I've got ADHD, so that makes sense. And then I'll have other mothers that are just like really, obviously a lot of the mothers I channel for are devastated. You know, they're in a really, really deep, dark place of loss, and so the babies will just come in and just ground them and bring this really like relaxing, deep energy. But again, it is so unique. It's unique to each mother, each baby. Very often there's more than one baby that channels through. And I always explain to the mothers that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all going to be like, you know, I'll say babies and they might say we, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be more than one baby that comes in. They could be your babies that are going to stay in spirit. They could be it sometimes can get a little bit complex, but your spirit babies' guides, because the spirit babies also have guides, isn't it? So sometimes there's like a collective we that I channel for the mother. But it's not always, they're not always going to be your children, is what I'm trying to say. But I always invite the mother to share who she'd like me to call in. So sometimes it'll be the baby she's lost, sometimes it'll be baby that's coming in, sometimes that's the same soul, as was my experience. And sometimes they just want to leave it open and see, like, whoever wants to come in and share. So it's very individual, and I always ask the mother if they've got any questions, and who they want to call in. But it's, yeah, the way I work is quite different, because I don't necessarily work in a way that a lot of women come to me and they will say, when is my baby coming in? Are they a boy or a girl? And so they want to know, and that's totally understandable. I wanted to know the same thing. And there are some mediums out there that will share that information. But for me, it just doesn't feel aligned, because that doesn't give us the opportunity to heal our wounding, perhaps around control and letting go, and just, allowing our babies to lead the way. And it really, I guess, kind of misses that opportunity for healing, being given that information. But I do say that if your babies want you to know, they will share that. But my work is very much around feminine healing, and the feminine doesn't have a timeline. So it's not. And I do often share whether I feel like it's a masculine or a feminine energy. And very often the mother knows anyway, because she's already felt it, and they kind of just want a bit of like reassurance, I think. But yeah, so it's just, I find it helpful to just kind of share, like, the way that I work is quite different to other mediums, and spirit baby mediums. So
we all, I believe that we all have mediumship abilities, and it's about practicing and developing them. We can choose to do that or not.
yeah.
And so I love asking other practicing mediums about the way that they receive messages or how they bring messages through, because of course there's some similar ways, like clair knowing or like impressing the images like you spoke about, but it's also, I think, important to hear the unique ways that we bring our messages through.
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry, I was just going to share something that I'd forgotten to say.
yeah.
When it was February 2020. So it was just as, or just before I conceived my daughter, but at the time I didn't know. I was laying in the bath one night, and I just had Mother Mary come to me, and basically like a line of children, spirit children, all lining up. And they just said, help, like they were just saying, help, please, we need your help. We need you to help our mothers. And that was just my calling then. I just knew that I was being called into helping them in some way, but I just had no idea what it was. But I quite like to share that kind of calling from spirit babies. And then I tracked back, probably like a couple of years later, actually. I was like, that is when I conceived our daughter. Of course it was.
Yeah, I
But
love
at the
that.
time I didn't know.
And how spirit can like give us those invitations and those knowings. And it doesn't mean that we understand what that means right in that moment. It might be, like you're saying, like years or months later that you're like, oh, like that's what that was. And
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Will you describe or define what soul means to you?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned before, I feel like soul is our unique expression of spirit.
Mhm.
And for me, the soul is in the body from the time of conception. I, which I have I think I have a slightly different perspective than many other birth workers, in that I believe that our baby's soul is in the body, and from the moment they're conceived. So yeah, and also I think my own guide was trained as a homeopath, and so I have a lot of teachings from her, and that's what feels true to me, and from my experience with spirit babies as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what.
And will you, as we are closing now, I just want to thank you for being here and sharing your beautiful stories of birth and mediumship and loss and connection with spirit babies. And will you share with listeners where they can find you and any current offerings or anything else you'd like to share here?
Thank you. My Instagram and Facebook is Mystical Birthing. So on Instagram it's mystical and then underscore and then birthing. And I don't have a website at the moment, but so you can contact me through social media or my email address, which I think I sent to you, didn't I? And I have a Linktree page as well with the links. But I offer spirit baby readings, one-to-one readings, and I also have rebirthed my mystical conception offering, which is a 3 or 6 month journey of deeper healing, particularly womb healing and guiding women into creating the aligned energy in their womb so they can receive and hold their baby that wants to come in. So that's a one-to-one offering. Over 3 or 6 months or even longer if that's what's desired. So I've rebirthed that and I've got a space open at the moment, and I will be opening more spaces later on in the year once our daughter starts school and have a little bit more space.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much. I look forward to continuing to follow you on Instagram and connect as we move along through this life.
Yeah, thank you, Amana. It's been really lovely.
Hello, my dear beloveds. I just want to take a quick moment and update you on some changes and new offerings in my realm. I have made myself a new website, amanabeloved.com, so you can find all of my one-to-one and group offerings there. The stars have aligned for me to have the capacity to reinvent and offer 2 monthly group online offerings that are exclusively for women. One will be centered around pregnancy and birth, and the other around death and grief. If you don't know me already, I have been tending both birth and death professionally for over 15 years. I have had the incredible honor of witnessing many, many, many first and last breaths, including those of some of my own loved ones. And although I continue to love serving women in birth and grief one-to-one, I am super excited to be returning to guiding women in circles centering these thresholds of birth and death. My full moon birth circles will begin at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on each full moon. These circles will be focused on the needs of pregnant women and new mothers. In this circle, you will be invited into practices of embodiment. You will be guided to connect with your baby within your womb, earthside, or in spirit. I will share a personal story of pregnancy, birth, or mothering. There will be time for Q&A. We will gently move our bodies and practice connecting to our intuitions. There will also be opportunities to share and be witnessed. This is a circle designed specifically for women in the seasons of conception, pregnancy, and early mothering, as well as women who are supporting the women in these seasons, such as birth keepers, doulas, and maidens who want to learn more about this incredible rite of passage before they step into it themselves. The investment for each circle is just $22 US, and you can have half off of your first circle using the code 50% off and join for just $11. I hope to see you there, and of course, reach out with any questions. My new moon grief and death circles will take place at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on new moons. This circle will be centered around grief, death, and dying, and is for any woman currently navigating these, as well as for those curious to explore these topics and increase their death literacy in a culture that ignores and suppresses knowledge of these incredibly impactful human experiences. In this circle, I will offer an intuitive card reading, a personal story about death, dying, or grief with time for Q&A. I will lead you through an embodiment practice to gently move with the energy of grief, connect with source and loved ones in spirit. There will be opportunity to share and be held, as well as bear witness to what other women share. The investment for each circle is $22 US. Use the code 50% off to join your first circle for just $11. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to connecting with you more deeply in circle. Find links and discount codes in the show notes below. Thank you so much for listening. I would love for you to take a moment to rate, review, or share the show if you feel so inclined. If you want to share your story on the Heart of the Soul or have a desired topic suggestion, please reach out to me through email. Remember that we can co-create the world we want to live in for ourselves and for the generations to come. So until next time, be brave, be bold, be love, and be you. Mwah.